human interaction got so toxic for quite a long time because of the political things that were happening in the world, the pandemic that is happening in the world. And I think people got pretty ugly for a while. Made me feel like I just couldn't be a part of it because I wasn't feeling it.
Disinformation is spreading.
There will be a surprise outbreak. Is the issue of pandemic.
No social distancing at all.
They said that they would express their concerns about the mask supply.
Where's the mask? Where's the glove?
A second wave is...
We all need some good news.
This is a message for all the healthcare workers out there.
Thank you.
If you're looking for hope tonight, raise your hand. If you feel alone and don't understand, if you're fighting the fight of your life, then stand.
From Santa Rosa, California, this is 19 Stories. I'm Cheryl Halling. My guest today began as a radio broadcaster and producer before transitioning into voicing thousands of radio and television commercials, e-learning modules, and corporate trainings. She's also an acting coach and the creator of Introduction to VoiceOver, a 3-hour self-paced course for beginners, straight talk about talking, which covers the basics of what it really takes to start a career in voiceover, and the monthly webinar series, Late Night Secrets, a networking community of actors helping actors. For more than 2 decades, she's delivered a wide range of vocal styles for happy clients around the globe. So without further ado, I'd like to give a nice warm welcome to my guest, Rhonda Phillips.
Wow. Thanks, Cheryl. Thank you so much for having me. And wow, that was a fun introduction.
You're so welcome, and you are a fun person. I'm so happy that you're joining me today. And
well, I do my best. I like to laugh a lot.
We need more laughing, don't we?
Truth.
We certainly do. Well, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty darn good. Got lots of good auditions in this morning. Now just chilling and hanging out with you. We were just talking. We should probably each have a glass of wine in hand. But lo and behold, I think we're both sipping water.
Yeah, we're doing water. We're being conscientious. After all, it's 3:14 in the afternoon for me, 4:14 for you. Although it is happy hour somewhere, right?
So always somewhere.
Speaking of which, whereabouts are you joining me from?
I am in Western Colorado, just west of the Rockies, and it is lovely here. I only live about, 35 miles from the Utah border. So we're in the deserty part of Colorado. Many don't know that there's a deserty part of Colorado, but I live in it, so it's true.
That is close to Colorado National Monument.
Oh, yes, that's my backyard.
Yeah, not too shabby.
Not too shabby at all.
Not too shabby.
Surrounded by, on 3 sides by 3 different styles of mountains. And the Colorado National Monument happens to be one of them. Yes, it's lovely. If you ever have a chance to come visit in Grand Junction, that's the place you want to visit.
Well, I have yet to visit, and I'd absolutely love to. As I understand, it's truly one of the most beautiful national parks in the country. And given last year, both of our counties experienced rather large fires, yours, I think, was like the second largest in your state's history.
Yeah, as it was burning, it became number 1 until another fire on the other side of the mountain started and became the number 1 fire. Yeah, it was treacherous. I was actually wearing my COVID mask indoors, and it was raining ash outside. It started literally 15 miles from my house. However, it was on the other side of a rocky mountain. I mean, it's like it's called the Book Cliffs. It's kind of sandy. And so luckily it never jumped that ridge. So our entire city was safe. A lot of rural places had issues, but yeah, it was breathing troubles. I had to see my doctor and have a nebulizer and my nasal mists and, all the magic that happens and the sexy stuff that happens, when you're taking care of your voice.
Behind the scenes. Yes, sexy stuff.
The sexy stuff.
Give us an idea, speaking of sexy, because, shelter in place is just that. Give us an idea of what your current shelter in place directives are and how, if at all, that has affected your life.
Well, starting back, when it all began, it was just more scary for me than anything because truthfully, as you and many of our colleagues, I already worked from home all the time. And so it wasn't nearly as a transition for me as it was for a lot of folks. So I felt the isolation. However, I'm in an isolation booth all day. So it didn't really feel that different to me other than grocery shopping, going in public, restaurants. So I do feel isolated. but likely not as much as others.
I'd love to hear about your life as a radio broadcaster and producer before you got into voiceover and what that was like for you and how that ultimately led to you having the lucrative career that you have now.
Well, lucrative. That's a sexy word, isn't it? Lucrative.
The theme, I guess, right now is sexy. We're going to stay on that.
Let's just stay in that vein. Well, funny thing is, I made my first voiceover demo / DJ demo when I lived in Denver, and my parents had this really cool tape player that you could put 2 cassette tapes in.
Ooh.
It was cool.
The dual cassette tape.
It was amazing because I could record my voice, and I could upplay the radio songs, and so I felt like I was pretty cool back then. But then all that went away because I grew up, got married, had children, had regular job and this job and then that job and then moving and life. And then one day I had this wonderful job and it just ended because the company decided to leave town. So here I am once again with no job. And so I decided I want to be on the radio. Good idea, right? Sure. Do I have any experience? No. Why would I need experience? Posh. Psh, whatever. But there just happened literally the following week. I don't know. Somebody was looking out for me. The radio station, one of my favorites in town, was having be a DJ for a day. And I was like, I could be a DJ for a day. This is my chance.
I love it. No, I love it. I love just being bold and going for it.
Well, yeah. And so I went in and applied. I had a very nice chat with the, with the GM. And he said, sure, you can do it. You've done entertaining things before, because I've done public speaking and I've taught people public speaking and I'm funny.
You are funny.
Anyway, I made him laugh a couple of times. And so luckily I hopped right on that morning show. It was Halloween day and the phones were hot. And the woman I was working with was flustered just simply because we were overwhelmed with calls and trick-or-treaters and all the things that a morning show does, I guess. And she dropped all of her papers all over the floor during an open break. And she looked at me with wide eyes and just, did the let's keep rolling signal to me and then got down on the floor. So I was like, ooh, this is really my break. Yeah, and it went swimmingly. And so come to find out, she was leaving the show soon after.
Talk about Providence. That's fantastic.
And I was offered the job straight away. And I said, you seriously want somebody that has no idea what they're talking about on the radio? Luckily, I had lived in the Valley for many years. And, I knew several people that I could say, well, they can attest that I'm not crazy balls. It's completely, right? And so luckily, I just kind of walked in the door and it worked out. And I had a great time. I was on the air for several years. We had a comedy morning show. So it was fully produced. And we just had a really great time. And that's where I learned voiceover. Because, of course, I hadn't done a lot of it before I walked into the radio station and said, hire me because I'm great. And so my second day at work, one of the sales associates came up to me and said, listen, I need you to record a commercial. And I said, well, okay, where's the room I need to do that in? And so he took me back to their studio, showed me Cool Edit Pro back then. I think it was 1.5. And I said, here you go. I said, I don't know how to, I don't know how to run this.
So he assumed because you came off so professional that you already knew the ropes.
It was a sales guy. He didn't know me from Adam.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And he laughed. He bent over laughing and to tears and said, I got you. Okay, this is the button you push to record. And it was the red button. And then you read this script and you try to make it sound fun. I don't even remember what it was. It was something super high energy and fun. Just make it sound fun and do 2 or 3 takes for me, and then I'll come in and I'll show you how to basically edit it up. I said, sure, I got this. And he walked out of the room and proceeded to stand there and look at me through the window and watch me, which made me so nervous. And 3 or 4 takes later, I waved him in. He came in and took a listen and said, this really isn't half bad. I was like,
that's a nice compliment. Actually, that's really remarkable.
For me, that was a really huge compliment. And so then he sat down and took over and we kind of made a team out of it. So when he needed something, I would voice it. He'd come in and he'd edit and teach me how to do it. Granted, he was a salesman, but he was also very well versed, I guess, at producing his own commercials. And there you go. I kind of got my start there, went through a couple different morning show partners along the years. Finally ended up with an amazing guy for a morning show partner, a comedian. And we had a real big time producing this show because, we're in a big, big town here in Colorado, and there's, hundreds of radio stations. No, there's 2 radio groups in town. And we had 5 stations on ours, and they have 5 stations on theirs. So we're the mecca of radio stations.
I didn't know if you were speaking about Denver, which, has a few radio stations, or you were talking about Grand Junction.
No, Grand Junction here, where, so many radio stations.
And was it a talk show, or what was the format of your?
It was a hot AC morning show.
Okay.
We would entertain in between the breaks. We did news. We did traffic. There's no traffic. We didn't do traffic.
We see the steer coming down the road. Watch out.
Well,
He's not moving.
Well, it's not quite that we have roads here, which is pretty cool. Yeah, no, we just produced fun stuff. And we were huge in the community. And so at least once or twice or more during a week, we were out in public. So we would, I was really, really big on raising money for breast cancer awareness. And so all month of October, we did service for people, and they would pay us to do services for them. Or we would take donations for pumping gas. Or one year I went almost all pink with my hair because I'm crazy like that. And I like pink hair.
I think you have a couple of photos of yourself on your website with pink hair.
Oh, yeah. I usually have some form of pink in my hair when I'm not lazy. But at one point, I was like 85% pink that year. It was crazy.
And for a good cause.
It was. We raised lots and lots of money. We even had characters on our show that actually weren't characters at all. We fooled our listeners for about a month with a couple characters that we came up with, but we were the characters. And of course, there is no producer on these shows. We were the producers. We did it all. It's small town radio. You do everything. And so I was Darlene. And my morning show partner, he was a real gruff guy named Clyde. So Clyde and Darlene would call the morning show 2 or 3 times a week. And it was like a soap opera. We would go through things. It was pretty fun.
Now, what an incredible training ground. Seriously, you had production skills that you were learning. You were learning improv, a cachet of characters, and being able
directing
to be
and producing as well.
Yes. In addition, what I didn't mention, what you can do for your clients is that you could produce full spots if needed.
If needed, yes, for my clients. I usually steer clear of television or anything like that. But radio, I'm well versed. A lot of them just say, I need a radio commercial. Here's my donut. Here's my jingles. Here's my things. I could just give them a nice package. It's lovely. I think every voice actor should have some kind of background or know the basics of at least how audio works and, how they can lay music, and not saying that they should produce their own demos, I mean, there's people for that. But when it comes to providing extra service for your clients that need radio spots, it's doable. It's absolutely doable. And I produced thousands of commercials probably. And the directing portion, I learned so much because, as you well know, a lot of business owners want to come in and do their own radio commercials. They want my voice on it. They're the owner. They want their voice on it. But of course, a lot of people walking up to a microphone are very nervous. They don't really know what to say. Some of them are super fast talkers.
Or really slow talkers.
Or ummers. I call them ummers. And then, I'm an ummer sometimes too. So I can't diss all the ummers of the world.
We all are. Trust me, when editing this podcast, I realize not only how much am I an ummer, but it's quite remarkable how that is used in our everyday conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We both said at the same time.
Speaking of what every voiceover actor or talent should know, tell us about the premise, and I love the premise of your introduction to voiceover. And please, without giving away the farm, so to speak, can you share, because after all,
It's okay. I don't have a farm to give away.
You don't have a farm, a ranch. Okay.
I don't. Yeah, it's a small ranch.
Or a steer or a mountain, without giving away the
mountain. Goats. That's what I have, mountain goats.
Without giving away the goat, can you share with those who might be interested a little bit about what your 3-hour session is?
Okay, it's a pre-recorded session, and so you can go take the course at your own pace. I really decided to come up with it a few years ago just because I got so many people asking me, hey, how do you get into voiceover? How do you break into voiceover? What is voiceover? Can I make money at it? And so I'm a very honest person. My students call me the most honest coach they've ever worked with because it's necessary. I think everybody needs honesty. And some people aren't as honest as others when they're trying to get people to, pay them for their services of whatever type the services are. And so I decided to kind of put a course together so people really understood the gravity and really what it looks like to start a career. And I can use air quotes on that, a career. Because truly, if you want to moonlight doing this, that's fantastic. If you want to work part-time, a lot of people work part-time and work there. That's really great as well. But if you're really serious and you decided, listen, I don't want to work for the man or the woman anymore. I want to work for myself. There's a whole lot that goes into it, as you know. I've even had people say, Rhonda, it's voiceover. How hard can it be? I have a closet and I can get a USB mic and I'm ready to rock and roll. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe not so much. Yeah. Because it just takes so much. Not only does it take coaching and training to get really good at your craft and learn how to interpret scripts and proper breathing techniques and, all the things that coaches teach you, the nuances and all the many genres that are out there. A lot of people think, oh, what do voice actors do other than commercials? Honestly, a lot of people just don't know.
It's remarkable because if you stop and even say to them, think about everything that you listen to in a given day.
Mm-hmm.
And when they stop and think about that, they go, oh, yeah, you're right.
Did you watch YouTube today? You know how many voiceovers you heard?
Did you go to the airport and pick someone up and they told you it's the white zone is for loading, unloading only?
Did you get groceries at the self-checkout?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, people just don't really think of where, I had a voiceover while I pumped gas this afternoon.
I had to laugh because I went to Whole Foods the other day and there was one that was, I don't know who adjusted the volume, but she was screaming at me the whole time. I was like, what? Did you not get your other gig? What's your trip?
Put your groceries in the bag.
No, literally, she was like on volume 20. I'm looking around going, where's the help to turn this down? Thank God my debit went through and she didn't go. It didn't go through, lady. It was
in
denied.
Her New York accent at the top of her lungs.
Yeah, at Whole Foods. So you touched upon different genres. And I mean, you seem to work in so many different genres, and that's not always the case. There's voice actors who would love, of course, to do whatever work that we can,
sure,
but that isn't always the case. That you specialize in a particular niche. So how did that happen for you? How you are very well-rounded, and rightfully so. You have a
yes, because it's pandemic time, and I've been eating a lot of sweets. That's why I'm so well-rounded right now. Just saying.
Okay, you're the first person to say that about the quarantine 15 weight gain that we've all gone through. Times two, maybe, for some.
I put real pants on today. That's a real eye-opener.
Gosh, I just had that conversation with my husband about a week ago. I'm like, yeah, I think I'll be sticking with the yoga do for a while because real pants. Mm-hmm.
Who needs them?
Who needs them?
Well, genre-wise, I honestly just started out doing the commercials because of necessity. It was my job.
That I understand.
Yeah. And so that became just really second nature to me during that time. I was lucky enough to have a fellow on staff as well. He was our producer and he had been a voice actor for many years. And so he kind of started teaching me the ins and outs and showing me forums that he was in and how he would find jobs and how he would audition for things outside of the radio station. And it was a real eye-opener for me because I hadn't even truly considered voiceover when I decided I wanted to be a morning show host. And so, 3 or 4 years in, I'm like, this is my jam, man. I can do a job that I love and make money on the side doing voiceover. Okay. And I did. And then I started learning about the other genres simply because I had a couple of local companies come to me and they needed their on hold messages done. And I was like, sure,
I can do that. Having never done that, but you seem to master say yes and adjust accordingly, right? That seems to be your motto.
Well, yes. And if you cannot adjust accordingly, you hire someone to adjust accordingly anyway. Mm-hmm. You just hire somebody to teach you how to do it. So then I kind of discovered some character voices that I had, my Wicked Witch voice, which is always fun. I am not a character actor for sure. I find it very vocally demanding. And at this stage in life, I find it more, but I'm 55. I find it more, don't tell any.
Okay, no one.
I'm not one of those ladies that's like, don't ever ask me my age.
I know. That's so silly.
You can ask me my age. You can see the wrinkles, so you know I'm not 23 anymore.
You're not? Oh my gosh, but you sound so young. Could you just
see? That's just it. I can do this forever.
Okay. All right.
Just don't Zoom me because then you'll know how old I actually am.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I won't.
And so then you just start kind of exploring things. You know, I did their IVR stuff, and then I started actually seeking people to do IVRs, voicemails, and things like that. A lot of the clients that I had at the radio station, when the radio station gig ended abruptly one Friday, to all of our surprise.
As is known to happen in radio. They just change formats, they close down.
Yeah, they just decided a syndicated show, of course, saved them a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we currently have is a syndicated show. They act like they live here, though. I don't like that. Anyway, that's off course, off topic.
Yeah, before you continue, just because there may be some people listening who aren't familiar with some of the terminology like donut and IVR.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
I like donuts.
I even forgot for a moment. I'm like, donuts, man, that sounds really good now.
Donut, actually, a nice bacon donut would be delicious.
Oh, there's a place, Rhonda, I'm telling you, if you ever come out here, there's a place around the corner that makes homemade maple bacon donuts.
Deal. Sold.
Deal.
Okay. I'll be there next week. Well, I can't. I'm getting my next injection tomorrow, my next vaccine. So then I'll be there.
Good. Okay.
I'll be there after that.
Okay.
So what was the question now that we've talked about donuts? Oh, yeah, we're talking about donuts. Okay, got you. Donuts and donuts. I get really off track when I hear food or see something shiny.
Yeah, it's like squirrel. Squirrel.
Totally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Donut is basically a company has a jingle produced, or it's kind of like a podcast intro and outro. So if you like a local commercial might start with their 5-second jingle and end with a 5-second jingle, we call that a donut because then the voiceover and the music is all in the middle, and their jingles are the donut on the outsides. And IVR is interactive voice response. So there's on hold and IVR. And so on hold, you're basically just trying to talk people into staying on hold until they can get to you, right? And then IVR is where you're asking them to physically push buttons.
Thank you for explaining that.
Sure.
So out of all the genres that you work in, is there one in particular that you enjoy more than others?
You know, that has ebbed and flowed throughout my career. At one point in time, I was just the commercial girl. Guess why? It's you come in, you learn, you bust out a few takes. Hopefully you get it right. You send it in and you get paid. It's fairly fast, down and dirty, right? It's commercial. By the way, it's not always that fast, easy, and down and dirty because sometimes you're on a directed session for 30 minutes to an hour to get that 30 seconds. But just saying, you know, a lot of the times with my clients. But now, honestly, it has my focus has changed to more of an e-learning stance. And maybe it's just, I'm enjoying kind of learning the content that I'm reading. And it just feels more comfortable for me. It feels a little less stressful. Commercial is very highly competitive. I know when I'm competing against some of the top voices, and I know a lot of those top voices, they're my friends. But we still audition for a lot of the same things. I just feel less stress and more at ease with e-learning these days than I do commercial.
Well, and then you're getting paid to learn. You're enjoying the content. You're learning something. And you're getting paid.
Sometimes I'm not learning something because the content is a little over my head. I'm like, dang, these people must be smart. I'm saying the words. I don't know what I'm saying.
Well, especially medical e-learning.
I kind of skip that. I'm going to leave that to Debbie Irwin, that medical stuff. If you are well-versed in the terminology and you can easily spit those words out without a second thought. But once you have to start digging in and looking up those things and getting the meaning, the interpretation, the right syllables in the right place, you know.
Syllables, yes, that's very important.
Yes. And so, no, I pass on that. Even though that's pretty good money. Honestly, you make more money there just because it's harder work. And I know a couple of nurses, and it's perfect for them. You know, if they're retiring or if they're just wanting to make some part-time money, they already know the terminology. So I know several nurses that have kind of walked into doing some basic medical stuff.
Yeah, it's a really cool transition. I have a friend who I actually interviewed for the podcast, Laura Wills Mooney, who used to be head of psychiatric clinic for Kaiser for 30 plus years. And now she's doing audiobooks and she landed a role in Pixar's Soul and
Wow.
I'm doing some medical narration as well. So yeah, it's a good transition for her. It
And there's
can
some things
happen.
I just don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yep.
I mean, I wouldn't mind doing some video game voices, but once again, I stay in my lane. Just
It's
because,
really hard on the throat too. It's just really, really.
yeah, it can be. And it takes training. I mean, you
Mhm.
have to, it's like you're a vocal athlete when you're doing those things. Because imagine you have to have a fight scene with an alien. How much physicality does that take?
I know. Every time I have a fight with an alien, it's exhausting. Just
Right? You just
yes.
leave the booth all sweaty. No, that's not my it's not my gig necessarily. However, I did go through a stint of loving to do horror things. Like, I did a lot of corn mazes, and
Ooh.
I did a lot of haunted house things. One of my favorite ones that I did was a family reunion, and they had a haunted trail for their family reunion. It was so creepy and fun. I really loved doing it.
Wait, they had a haunted trail for their family reunion,
Yes. So I think part of it's on my horror demo on my
which is
website.
wonderful, by the way. I did listen
Oh,
to your horror
thanks.
demo yesterday, and I was looking
Oh,
behind me, going, "Oh my gosh, I'm afraid now. This
oh,
is
I
spooky."
produced all of that.
Did you?
See, that's the kind of fun that I like to have is putting all the
Ooh.
screams and the blood screaming. I don't do the blood screaming stuff. Just saying, I do the creepy stuff. That's distorting your voice. Like the monster voices are all my voices. It's just all in the processing. It's the
Now,
magic of audio processing.
do you produce demos?
I do not. No, 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 no,
Okay.
no. I can. I just choose not to. Because once again, I kind of like to stay in my lane. I am not an audio engineer by any stretch of the imagination. I do know how basic audio works, and I can do some basic production. I don't necessarily trust myself to put someone else's career in my hands, to produce something for them that I would feel good about, I guess. And the reason is because I don't work in that world. I don't live that world.
Mm-hmm.
When I have to do some production that's really detailed, when I first got out of radio, I could produce anything, just because I did it
All the
a
time.
lot,
Yeah.
all the time. And now I voice mostly all the time. And so when you have to go in and do all those fancy little things, it just takes me so long because I really have to stop and think about it. And I would rather refer that to those that I know and trust do a super amazing job, and people can walk away proud knowing that a professional did I know some coaches do produce demos. A lot of people have different opinions about that, and I will keep my opinion to my opinion.
Okay.
I don't know, because I don't know everybody in the industry, so I don't know what a great producer they are. So I can't necessarily say your coach shouldn't produce your demos, because I know a lot of people do. Yeah, it's just not my thing.
Okay. I just didn't know if that was in your wheelhouse because of the fact that you do have an audio production background and you have produced, your horror demo for yourself, if you offered that to your students or not.
No, I don't. I did do the cutest demo on the planet. I did Tracy Lindley's daughter's demo, Jessie's demo, a couple of years ago when she was 7. Oh, it was the cutest demo on the planet. She was my student, and she was just real comfortable working with me. And so we had I'm sure it's on the Lindley kids website, probably. And she might have a new demo because she was 7 then. I'm sure a 9-year-old sounds different than a 7-year-old.
For those who aren't familiar with Tracy Lindley, who is another fantastic voice actor, and her children.
Yes, her 2 oldest absolutely do a lot of voiceover. I
Wonderful.
coached with them, and they're like tiny little professional people. It's quite amazing.
Well, her mother is quite the powerhouse, so
Yeah,
they haven't
truth.
fallen far from the tree.
This is the truth.
Let's chat about late night secrets for voiceover success.
Let's, because it's my favorite thing.
Yay, and it sounds, again, back to being so sexy, late night secrets.
I really should do a sexy demo or something, because, that voice keeps coming out today. It's totally not who I am, though. That's the funny part.
That's okay. And to tell you the truth, when I first heard late night secrets, I thought of, is it Delilah who's on the radio at night?
I think, years and years ago, it was Rhonda, up all night. Do you remember that? This lady would run around in her lingerie and
No. What was that on?
Yeah, Rhonda, up all night. And it was all night movies, and she was the host. You got to look it up.
Oh,
It's
okay.
quite
I thought you were
hilarious.
talking about on radio. Yes. Okay. I thought you were
It was
talking about
forever ago.
on radio. It was for we're dating ourselves.
Yeah, it's all right. I've already said how old I was. I'm fine
I'm
with it.
60. Don't tell anyone. Although
It's
I
our
think
secret. It is our
I think
little
I've told
secret.
everybody anyway. I was so proud of it. I'm like, darn it.
Well, honey girl, look in the mirror. You are fantastic. So at any age. So don't you worry about it.
Well, God bless you. It's smoke and mirrors, honey. It's Hollywood. It's smoke and mirrors.
It's Hollywood, darling.
Oh my gosh, I've got a daughter, a dog, and some coffee and a job for you. Come back. We'll talk.
Okay. Coffee talk.
No big whoop.
Anyway, yes, late night secrets for voiceover success. That was just a late night brain fart kind of thing that I had. I'm like, it'd be fun to like do a late night, like a late night webinar. And then I'm like, but who would show up? What would I talk about?
But who would show up? Oh yeah,
that's why I call it a brain fart. I'm like, I have these brilliant ideas that usually never come to fruition, and so. And then I saw an image, my first images that I was using way back when, 3 years ago, gave me the idea for the title. It was a piece of paper kind of ripped through, and there was just this lips that you could see, this beautiful lady's lips, and it just reminded me of a secret. And I was like, late night secrets. I like that. That sounds good. Then I was talking to some of my friends, Maria Pendolino, Melanie Murphy. These are all voice actor friends of mine, Joy Shalio, and Natasha Marchevka. We're all in I don't know if I can say this here on a podcast. We call ourselves the Badass Mastermind Group because
you just said it. That's fine.
We're all badasses.
So
we get together every
you
couple
are.
weeks.
You just
I kind of ran it through them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we would come." Maria was my first guest. She did something about mastering the millennial read, and she is the master of the millennial read.
Yes,
so it
was
fantastic.
Hear her all the time. I listen to Spotify on my walks, and I hear her all the time.
All the time. Yep.
And I'm like, Maria.
Stop taking all the work, Maria.
No. Of course, we applaud. We always applaud everybody. But I'm like,
of course we do. But
that's
what I'm always telling her. Oh, but she is.
She's dynamo.
Well, all my friends, all the people I just mentioned, they're just dreams, and I'm so fortunate to have them as friends and colleagues.
Well, you're in that circle, my dear.
I run in circles. I certainly do. Just so you know, on a regular basis. Back to late night secrets.
Because I have participated in several of your monthly webinars, and I see that it's really a labor of love for you that you offer these sessions because you're very gracious and you always allow room and space for not only your guest, but for the participants. And what, besides your mastermind group, what was the impetus for creating that?
I think it's really important to give back to your community, no matter if it's your physical community where you live or if it's your professional community. Because I find that voiceover literally is one of the nicest industries that I've ever wandered into. Wander into the dark room and somebody's like, "Hey, come on over here. I have a lighter. It's light over here." And once I started realizing how nice people actually were and that I could have a one-to-one with colleagues, I could trust several people to refer people to. It's not like too much of the backstabbing, biting the shoulders, or whatever you want to call it. And I'm one of those people. I want to help people. And when I started coaching, I started realizing that there's a lot of information out there that people need, and a lot of it's very expensive to get their hands on. And I just happened to have a lot of pretty fantastic colleagues that were willing to support my, hey, will you do a free appearance for me on a free website that I'm doing for free? And that was back when we began 3 years ago. It's now $15. So it's,
a whopping $15.
Whopping $15.
You spend that more on coffee.
Yeah. Kind of helping me with the business of the business. I can get some help putting it all together because sometimes I'm like, where has my week go? Oh, I was working on late night secrets this week.
There's a lot of work that goes into that. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I just like to produce the graphics and, and sending out the newsletters and putting it all on my website. That's, I do all that myself as well. So,
and who is that open to? Who can attend that?
Anyone.
Okay.
Anybody in the acting realm, I do believe we have a guest that will help you out. Of course, some webinars are going to float everybody's boat, right? Because they just don't need or want that information. But I try to have a really nice array of guests. And so I've had, guests that are coaches that are giving, really great coaching information. I've had marketing and branding. I mean, I had Celia Siegel on, and it was fantastical. And she just freely gives that information on branding, and it was just really lovely.
She's very generous with her information.
And Peter O'Connell with his marketing plan was fantastic. David Toback with the Global Voice Acting Academy came on and talked about rates. George Washington was on last month, and that was such an enlightening conversation.
We
talked
wonderful.
about BLM and race awareness. Wasn't that just I loved that webinar so much. It was, that's why I do it, because when I got off of that, I felt George is such an empowering speaker.
Yes, he
I felt
is.
like I had attended a mini conference in that 1.5 hours.
Yeah, it was a really strong evening. Yeah,
it was something about changing your mindset. That is for sure. And I've had some premium webinars, like I had Rob Siglin-Paglia on an Ask a Lawyer night. That was a fantastic
I'm sorry
night.
I missed that. In fact, we'll talk about that later because I might just buy the replay because I wanted to know what he covered.
He covered anything and everything anybody wanted to know, honestly. It was just a free-for-all question. A lot of questions about, protecting yourself legally, sole proprietorship, LLC, contracts, NDAs, AI voices. He kind of covered, he just covered the realm. Of course, the book VO Legal is his. He's an entertainment attorney and a very active voice actor and on-screen actor and director and producer, and I could go on. But yeah, webinars like that they're just so invaluable. I mean, it was $40 and an hour and a half of just literally talking to a lawyer.
Where are you
really
going to get
nice.
that? It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So, Rhonda.
Yes, Cheryl.
Given that you've been in such a coveted business, especially how things have changed last year and so many people thinking, work from home. And like you said, I'll just go in my closet and get a USB mic. And again, not begrudging anyone because some people are doing it the right way and they're doing really well. But being in this business for as long as you have, can you share a time where you've experienced a failure that actually helped you?
There's so many. Let me get out the Rolodex. Well, when you first start, you're like, I've got this. And then you set up your studio or your booth as best as you possibly can. And then the next year you upgrade to something and you listen back and you're like, how did I ever get any work with that nonsense that I did? And then it's like, I'll upgrade to this. And then you buy the wrong thing because you didn't check all the forums or talk to your, really smart engineer friends. Just the trials and tribulations, honestly. Learning the right and wrong way to market. Learning, just ways to keep your clients happy. Screwing up during a directed session, that's a pretty big fail, wouldn't you say?
It's fun. It's just fun.
Yeah, that anxiety is something everyone needs to experience at least 3 times in their life.
At least 3.
But, I've had ups and downs personally. I think we all have. I still have ups and downs. I seem like the happiest person on the world. But, I have bad days. I have days that I'm like, am I ever going to get work again?
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day I'm busy. And then the next day I'm marketing. And then the next day, the glamour comes in. This is a super glamorous job. And that's something that some of my students find out that's kind of disappointing. You don't live your life in your studio. You live your life in your office.
Right.
And then you get the joy of coming into your studio on occasion because of the work you've done in your office.
One of the reasons I'm asking that question is because it's so easy to look at someone like the way you described your beginning in radio. It almost sounded like you had the touch of gold, like no matter what you did, you were successful. And for that instance, for that particular experience, it started out because you had an idea that you could do it and you did. But that doesn't mean everything goes that way. And so that I really appreciate you sharing that, because anyone listening to you and thinking, well, I want to contact her, and you're talking about straight talk and real talk, that's part of the real talk.
Yeah, truthfully, it is, because people need to know the honest truth that getting into voiceover, and this is something I say on my website straight away, getting into voiceover is not fast, cheap, or easy, because it truly isn't. because you have a lot of training, a lot of missteps to do, a lot of acting to learn. If you're not already in some acting classes, that, of course, will help you out tremendously. But that takes time, energy, effort, cost, all of those things. And then once you learn the basic performance and you start feeling comfortable with that, then there's all of the other business elements that have to come into play. And, we're creatives. I prefer to be in here creating. I prefer to be in my art studio making some weird looking flower, because we're creatives. But the business side is super, it's the only way you make money and have a business. So you have to get all your eggs, in a row. Not your eggs, it's your ducks.
It's okay, duck eggs.
Get your duck eggs in a row, that's right. And that involves everything from getting your business set up from the ground up. You might have to register a business name, register with your state, get a federal identification number, and figure out your software. You're going to get a client. How are you going to keep track of that client? So you have to get a CRM. So basically, if Joe from the coffee shop hires you, you need a place to put Joe in a CRM so that you can say, Joe's my client. This is what I did for him. And it'll, all his information, it'll remind you, like if I reached out to Joe this week, a CRM will remind you when you need to reach out to him again. So it's just a good way to keep track of your clients and all those things. But you also need all of your business prowess on. You have to figure out how you're going to invoice people. And of course, you have to have a website, branding, logos, demos. And that, I just rattled off things that can take months and months to achieve.
I'm tired.
I know, right? Sometimes people are like, but Rhonda, I don't want to do all of those things.
Speaking of where we're at right now, do you have any fears regarding this time in your life? And if so, what skill sets have you learned to help combat them?
Well, I think everybody has a touch of fear, even if they don't want to say that they do, because this has been devastating to our country, to the world, not just our country. And so, yeah, I really did take it very seriously. I isolated myself as best that I could. We had our groceries delivered for a very long time. My husband did come down with COVID. And so that was a scary time, taking care of him or trying to take care of him by not getting sick because, we talk for a living. And I also have, considerable asthma and some lung troubles. And so it is a little more terrifying when you think, because when I get bronchitis or pneumonia, I'm off work for 5-6 weeks, and I don't like to be off work for 5 or 6 weeks, it's not my thing. So yeah, I took every precaution, just like everyone else. Now everything's starting to settle down a little bit. I have my first vaccination and, my second's tomorrow. So I'm feeling a little better about everything. I see a light at the end of the tunnel. I don't believe it's a train. I believe I'll be able to travel again soon and see my family, which has been the most difficult thing for me, is not seeing my daughter and her family. I have 3 grandkids in Charlotte. And, those little people are pretty important in our lives. And so what we've done to combat that is we bake every Sunday and sometimes Wednesdays. That's where the roundness of the pandemic has come from. So I get to Zoom with my grandkids every weekend and we do something together. And I live in Colorado, so thank goodness for the outdoors. Even in winter, snowing, cold, you still take your dog for a walk. So that helped me tremendously, being able to, and I have a really nice big backyard. That helps too, just being able to escape your literal house, even if it's just your backyard.
Sure. Yeah, that's probably been a saving grace in many ways. It is for me to be able to just go out and go for my walks and take photographs. And I've seen speaking of photographs, seen some of the delicacies that you and your granddaughters have created via Zoom, which,
yes.
As much as
I don't post a lot of things. I have to say, I have really stepped away from social media for a few different reasons. And some people tell me that I'm hurting myself because I'm not being out there in the world. But, truthfully, a lot of people that are on my Facebook feed, I don't even know them. At this point in time, Facebook feels yucky to me personally. So I go on now and then. I like other people's comments, but I've kind of stopped putting my life out on Facebook. I think it's what had something to do with the pandemic. I didn't feel like I had anything really to share. I mean, you're not leaving your house. How many pictures can you take in different rooms in your house at different angles? I am now in the Sahara with my plants behind me. So there's not much to share. Why share?
Rhonda, it's so interesting because the really cool things that have come out of this time is the clarification of what makes sense and where our time goes and what are we going to pour energy into it. And I've pulled back.
But your pictures are fantastic, Cheryl.
Thank
your
you.
Facebook feed is one that I truly enjoy. So thank you for being a bright spot on Facebook.
Thank you so much. I hadn't mentioned it for that, but I guess I'm affirming your choice to step back from that because I have also done that for my sanity. I think it's really important to pull back from some of these things. And I had a very, very wise woman by the name of Liz Atherton tell me before that, look, Cheryl, there are some people having very lucrative voiceover careers that aren't on social media at all. And she didn't name them. I'm like, who? I want to find out. How would I know
names.
They're not on social media?
Because Facebook is more human to human.
Yes.
I don't look at Facebook as a machine for my marketing, for sure. But even I found the human interaction got so toxic for quite a long time because of the political things that were happening in the world, the pandemic that is happening in the world. And I think people got pretty ugly for a while. A lot of people did. And it just made me feel, I don't know how it made me feel, but it made me feel like I just couldn't be a part of it because I wasn't feeling it.
That goes along with one of my questions for you is, how do you care for yourself during this time? And it sounds like one of the ways you're caring for yourself is to not engage in something that feels toxic to you.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I surround myself with as much positivity as possible, be it my friends, my family, my daughter and my grandson. I do have them that live here in town. And so I'm with them a whole lot. Family is probably the number one thing for me. I have a fantastic husband who keeps me very entertained because he's hilarious. And we do fun projects like we're renovating right now. So we decided to tear all the drywall off of our walls downstairs. So, we keep entertained by doing nutty things like that.
There are other things to do besides peeling drywall for fun.
Yeah, I know. But, sometimes stuff just has to be done.
Just has to be done. How's your husband doing, by the way?
Oh, he's great. He's good.
He came through.
He came through like a champ, and thank goodness, no lingering health side effects. And
Beautiful.
he's just received his first vaccination as well. So that's pretty fantastical. But otherwise, my dogs. My dogs keep me sane. I have a 100-pound lab named Zeus. A lot of people have met him because he's big, but is in my studio a lot in my office. And he entertains me, and I entertain him, and we have a great time. So he's my other human when no humans are here. I talk to him all day long.
So is that part of what makes you hopeful? Is all the things you mentioned, your husband, your dogs, your drywalling, your grandchildren?
Yeah, that's helpful.
Not necessarily in that order.
Yes. And truthfully, coaching and my late night secrets. Those things have kept my spirit afloat, even though some days I'm like, this is hard. Just the interaction, and I've met so many fantastic voice actors and newbies and people that are just exploring and people that have been in the industry longer than me. And it's just, so that has honestly kept me in the business life and realm, has kept me going. I've connected with some of my students to where now we're friends, and I've just really loved watching their exploratory experience going from a full-time acting to now a full-time voice acting. And all the things. So I'm really proud of a lot of my students. They've achieved big things. And just so I look forward to seeing them every day. When somebody schedules, I'm like, yes, I get to talk to another human that I really like. It's great. And then the late night secrets, we just get to have open, candid conversation. I look forward to that last Wednesday of the month, every single month.
It's such a wonderful avenue to connect with people in a different way because, yes, we're all doing a lot of Zoom webinars, et cetera, but to have it once a month, it makes in some ways very special. And because you do have such an eclectic mix of people who present, and let's talk about your Christmas party. Hello.
That was so much fun.
So fun.
I called it the 2020 holidays party, like DAZE, because I felt like the whole year was a daze.
Yes,
for me.
It was.
We gave away so much stuff. Oh, we gave away thousands of dollars worth of really cool
couldn't
things.
believe it. That was amazing.
Yeah,
and
ugly sweaters were on point.
Sweaters. Oh,
Santa was
my
on
goodness.
point.
Yes. So, hey, anybody listening who is a voice actor who wants to know about late night secrets, please explore that. You can find all of that information on Rhonda's website, but we're not going quite yet. I have a couple more questions for you.
And I do think it's really, really important to find a core group of either women or men or both that you can draw into your circle and that you have a circle to go to. Because my little tiny group, I think we've been meeting for well over 2 years now, every other week for an hour. You know, if I'm just having one of those, I am not motivated, I would much rather go get a pedicure and eat some bonbons today. Because we all have those days, right?
Donuts.
Yes, donuts, back to donuts. But, you know, I give somebody a call and I'm like, hey, what are you doing? They're like, well, I'm working. What are you doing? Oh, I should probably be working, right? That's the answer. So we just really support each other. We have a small group, but I have to say that the voiceover conference called FAFCon that went on for several years, it's no longer, was truly so eye-opening for me to join that wonderful group of humans. I made some solid connections, some very nice, wonderful people that are willing to help. That's where I met the Romanowskis of the world, you know, which is Eric Romanowski, Earblowing Audio. And I met just so many people, so many top pros that I was like, I'm in the same room with this person and it's big and important. And then it made me realize, I'm just like them. I just work all day.
Yeah.
They're just nice people. I'm nice people. But now I can call and say, listen, I have the need for a Mandarin Chinese voice or a coach for that situation. And I can just reach out and say, raise your hand if you have the person I need. Or raise your hand if, you know, and so some fantastic Facebook groups out there for voice actors. So you can go and join voiceover pros. I mean, if you just go, there's so many Facebook groups. It's crazy. But if you go in there and you have a certain question, search the group. There's so many great answers already out there for you.
It has never been a better time to access information because of everything that you just said. It's really quite amazing how much you can self-educate and yet at the same time still need a Rhonda Phillips in your life to coach you.
Everybody
and guide
needs
you.
one of those.
Everybody needs a Rhonda Phillips. So Rhonda, if there was a soundtrack to your life, what would be on it and why?
Oh, that's a big one. A soundtrack. Well, my music would go everything from the Carpenters to Pink to, you know, so.
Of course, Pink.
Even yesterday, I was laughing at my Pandora playlist because I just love me some Pandora. Engelbert Humperdinck was on one of my playlists because why not?
Why not?
Well, my mom listened to him a lot when I was a kid. So I was like, hey, Charlie Pride, I listened to him a lot. So every once in a while, I just revisit my childhood on Pandora. But it would probably be anything just kind of fun, upbeat, uplifting. I was going to the store today and Let's Go Crazy came on by Prince. And, you know, I was like, that might be my soundtrack right there.
Who doesn't love themselves some Prince and going a little crazy?
Sometimes I forget how much I love Prince until it comes on the radio and my husband's like, oh my gosh, here we go. Because I like to belt me some Prince, you know?
Who doesn't? We all think we've
out.
got a Prince in us somewhere.
Well, don't we all, though?
Yes, we do.
A little somewhere. But I did want to ask you really quickly, or mention, it's been in my mind. I have to wrap my mind around doing more, you know, of my great ideas. I feel like I need to step into Clubhouse a little bit because I listen in all the time. I've been in rooms with you as we're just sitting there listening. And I considered doing a Late Night Secrets Clubhouse, but it feels intimidating and overwhelming to me for some reason. What are your thoughts? Should I do that? Because I really want to talk about voiceover 50 or voiceover 55. I see a lot of folks walking in right now on their second or third act, starting a voiceover career. So I thought that would be a really interesting thing to chat about on Clubhouse.
Well, I think it's ironic that you're asking me because the time that you and I were in Jody Krangel's audio branding group was my very first time I've been on Clubhouse.
Me too. And I wasn't even expecting to speak. And I'm like scrambling for my headphones, you know, my earplugs.
Yeah. And I had actually logged off shortly after she invited me up on the stage. But so that's why I think it's what she's asking me about Clubhouse. I think it's a fantastic idea. You had talked about over 50, over 55. The original incarnation of my podcast was Thrive After 55.
Right.
And,
yes. And we had spoken about that. Yep.
Yes. And I am seeing more and more and more men and women talking about doing their I don't want to just say their passions, but really moving into a different chapter in their life where they're getting to do things, either things that they've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
Or, and didn't have whatever held them back. And I think,
yes.
So in this case, I think it would be fantastic if you did a late night secrets or whatever you wanted to call it, Clubhouse Club.
Well, I think I'll even have a late night secrets webinar about it. Why not?
Why not?
Why not? And we spoke about Jody Kringle a lot today, and she just happens to be my next guest on Late Night Secrets on April 28th. So that's kind of cool.
It's very cool. Jody is the real deal. She's great people, a huge talent.
And I met Jody at FAFCon.
and that's the first time I heard about FAFCon was through her. And it makes me sad that that's no longer around because it sounds like it was
amazing. It was a peer-led voiceover conference. So we taught each other. It was beautiful.
What led to its demise?
She had only planned 10 total. And, because she didn't, she was like, I want to do this and I'm going to do 10. Well, she ended up doing 9 because then life happened. People moved. One of her main people that was helping had a baby. So 10 never happened and we're all very sad about it. But yeah, it would be cool if something else similar to that was ever reborn because it was a very special conference.
Well, I see an outlet for your energy, Rhonda, and all your spare time.
All I need to do is plan a late night secrets voiceover conference.
It can happen. It
in
can
the
totally
mountains
happen.
of Colorado. Everybody bring your tent.
Do you know? Oh gosh, that
We're
sounds
going
divine.
camping.
Are you kidding? We're gonna glam. Hey, glamming's a huge thing here in Northern California. I've yet to glam. My husband's like, wait a minute, we're gonna go pay to stay in a really nice tent.
I know.
Out near a river that's 10 miles from us where we can take the tent we have in the garage and go. And I go, yeah, but it's a really nice tent.
That's funny. I've never gone glamping.
No, I have never. No, I would be laughed. I used to work for a wilderness outfitting company and they would just laugh me off the mountain
my glamping is I get real fancy every once in a while and put mascara on.
Before you go hiking. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, you got to look good. You never know who you're going to run across.
Never know who,
Goodness.
Exactly. How can people get a hold of you, please?
They can email me, Rhonda at rhondasvoice.com. And Rhonda is with an H, RHONDA. They can contact me through my website. I don't know. Then call me up, carrier pigeon, whatever works.
That's so funny. I have that on my website about carrier pigeon.
That's awesome.
What is your website?
rhondasvoice.com. And that's where you can sign up to join the webinars. There's also a lot of really great replays from past webinars, and those are only $5. I really need to raise the price on those because
that's
come on,
great,
$5.
Really.
And all the money that I make there will be donated. I'm just not making much because they're only $5, but that's okay. So I was able to donate to Brad Venable's wife in February, actually, $250 just from replays. And so now I'm saving up some funds for maybe a scholarship so I can pay somebody's way to a conference this year.
Oh, beautiful.
Not me. Anybody that orders replays, I'm not doing it. I'm just helping.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. It's very generous. And like you say, this is truly one of the few businesses that the generosity, the willingness to help, the sharing of information, and you are definitely a wonderful powerhouse and resource for that of talent and generosity. And I'm very honored to know you and have this time with you, Rhonda Phillips.
Stop it. I need a tissue. Tito, hand me a tissue.
For those who don't know who Michael Jackson or Tito is, look it up.
Yeah, who doesn't know who Michael Jackson is?
Well, I know, as if I'm talking to a millennial audience that listens to this podcast, talking probably more than likely to my peers. Thank you, Rhonda. I really appreciate it.
This has been super fun.
Oh, yay. I want it to be fun.
And this is my first podcast. So,
woo!
I was a little nervous. So thank you. Thank you for putting me at ease and letting me tell silly stories and laugh a lot.
You are so welcome. And I wish I had like a horn or confetti or, something.
Oh, I'll go throw some confetti of my own. It's okay.
Okay,
I like to throw my own little parties.
Okay, good.
I'll do it.
Good. You do that. Yeah. After all, you're used to being alone. So
aren't we all?
We come into this world alone and we go out alone.
That's true.
Oh, my
in the
gosh.
meantime, we sit alone in our padded rooms.
And talk. And talk. And talk. And sometimes get paid for it.
Well, thank you for having me on. This has been a pleasure.
You're very welcome, Rhonda. And thank you.
You betcha.
I'd also like to thank the following news outlets for the use of their clips in so aptly painting the picture of the fear that we're facing during this pandemic: BBC, PBS, Now This, UNESCO, and Some Good News. I especially want to thank Joel and Luke Smallbone, otherwise known as the group for King and Country, for allowing me to use an excerpt of their song Together, which could not be a more hopeful and inspiring song for such a time as this. Finally, I'll leave you with the following from Proverbs 23:18. Surely there is a future, and your hope will not be cut off. Thank you again for joining me today. Feel free to offer feedback or a story idea at 19stories@soundsatchelstudios.com. Visit my website at soundsatchelstudios.com, via Instagram at Cheryl Halling VO. I look forward to sharing more stories on the next episode of 19 Stories from Fear to Hope. Until then, stay healthy and hopeful.
Together with our differences, together we are bolder, braver, stronger.